I'm officially mind blown in just about the worst way a person can be, because after my own personal dramatic run-in with this title in 2017, my hopes to see this game, if you can call it that, my hopes to see it implode on itself and to be the thing that would force Square to pay the piper for criminally selling their most beloved franchise down the river, it could not have been higher. That was my hopes for the outcome of all of this, but it seems to like it's gone the opposite direction, and of course I'm talking about FF15 A New Empire. Oh god, just saying it makes me want. It makes me want to hell, and that's why I didn't ever want to do a video about this again. And I said a year ago I didn't plan to. But what's good, my fellow peasants? How you all doing? I feel like I have to cover it anyway now because there's been some news out lately about it that is absolutely disgusting in my opinion. So a little bit of a teeny backstory before we get into it. For anyone who's out of context who don't know about this before I dive into it, Square Enix sold the intellectual property of FF15 to a company called Machine Zone. So these are the facts, and Machine Zone did this under the guise name of Epic Action LLC. Now Machine Zone were once known as, ironically as it sounds, the company was once called Admired, which they certainly aren't now, but they were once admired and they are based primarily in California, though their snaky tendrils have reached out much further and have really started encroaching into Asia now, which is how they eventually kind of hooked up with Square Enix, and we have this catastrophic fuckhole of a title on our hands. And Machine Zone, their biggest fame or their biggest claim to anything is for most being known as the ones who are doing these empire building RTS shitfests, ones like Game of War Fire Age and Mobile Strike, two games with some of the most notoriously intensive advertising campaigns, and subsequently two of the highest grossing apps of all time, especially in 2014 and 15. So bear all of this in mind, that this company is basically the kingpin, the big kahuna of designing games purely based for no other reason than lifting players of their money. I'm not shitting you guys. These games are so designed around turning player attention, spending habits, and even mental characteristics / addictions into algorithmically calculable formulas that are, as history and those previous games have shown, deadly effective in the way that they get to players and their wallets. And it really is just that. It is an intentional algorithm. It is a formula. And I'm not exaggerating this. This is actually really a formula and an algorithm. In fact, there was a story not long ago about a Machine Zone employee who was arrested and charged because they were trying to steal this property data. It's that valuable, they went to jail trying to steal it. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm having to say these words and Final Fantasy in the same lingo. It absolutely blows my mind. Even the Wall Street Journal reported on this, case titling, "Why Game of War User Data is So Valuable." Now the main breakdown quote from all of this, I won't go through all of it, but the main one said, a quote, "About 3% of mobile game players buy virtual goodies such as extra turns and special powers. Most spend only a few dollars a month, with a tiny fraction known as whales, a name derived from casinos. They plunk down $50 or more." Now I'm really glad it said that, because honestly guys, before I even turned on this microphone and started recording this and I saw that Wall Street article, one of the things that I prepared to say coming into this video is that I'm not coming out here to mock Final Fantasy fans and saying that they have more money than sense, or that this is a Final Fantasy fan base issue necessarily. Because while FF15 A New Empire might have started by abusing the franchise name to garner attention, and that's all it was, Final Fantasy was how this game got its leg in the door. It had nothing intrinsically to do with FF, it doesn't stand for any of the morals or values or core beauties that this franchise has built up over 30 years, no, it flies in the face of it. But it basically began by using FF15 as just its skin, and it could really have been anything, because FF15 is no way being represented in this game, neither in lore, not even in visuals. Most of the visuals look like outdated Google Images ripped PNG bullshit from the Versus 13 era. I don't like doing hot videos, but I think you can hear the heat. You can hear how hot this makes me. But the thing that was found was that although FFXV it's where it's began, that's not what it's attracted long term. No, this game found deep pocket whales. Players, and they are out there, and there's a few million of them. Players with, and I'm going to say it, more disposable income than sense, who absolutely don't give a shit about the core values of the Final Fantasy franchise, and frankly don't even respect enough what they spend their own money and time on doing. I'm sorry to be harsh, but that's how it is, because from what I've heard, for over a year, this game has attracted some of the most abusive, hostile, and cutthroat players whose main kick pretty much comes from crushing and stomping on other small players. That's the entire purpose of this game.
Okay, so I may have upset a few people, but it was worth it! Final Fantasy 15, a new empire!
Now, of course, I'm going to disclaimer, not all players are like that. Some certainly are decent FF fans, or just gamers who find it therapeutic to do this as a side hobby, doing the empire. A little hour every day, and they engage on their phones while they're commuting, whatnot, yada yada. But let's not be thick about it. And let's not beat around the bush. While there are definitely some of those decent players, if anyone tries to argue that a pepped up swarm of verbally abusive power addicts haven't taken over this game and aren't the main community behind this, then I tell that person to go do one, because I've been on there, I've seen everyone talking about it, I've seen the realm chats for myself. And frankly, it's a den of goddamn wolves in there. So, and I mean, it makes sense because the very game is designed to appeal to that exact kind of nature, to that exact kind of community. The more brutal you are in this game, the better your chances of surviving are, and not having to drop a fat minimum of 100 quid just to stay in the game, which I think that's the minimum packs they do, in 100 schmegel packs. And the courteous players simply do not survive in this game, and everything about it stands in complete opposition, like I said, to the core values of the Final Fantasy franchise. It is a game where the value and strength of your empire is directly tied to the monetary value of it. Sure, you can get around it with hundreds and hundreds of monotonous, repetitive gameplay, two of the very things that gamers by nature try to avoid and will happily try to pay to avoid. This game intentionally makes its free-to-play aspect boring, slow, and ineffective as shit, simply to get people to spend more money. And there's no skill involved. It's not like some empires have better resources or better structures, or some people just build their empires better. It's all very samey, and it's just about either how much do you spend or how many other toxic arseholes do you group up with to keep yourself safe. I'm pretty much just laying out the harsh, unfiltered facts of this game, and a lot of people will try to convince you otherwise, but that's how it is. Anyway, I've digressed. So Machine Zone are basically, if Wolf on Wall Street was a gaming company, that's them. They are meticulously calculating how to scam off false advertising. They have a formula for it. Somebody even went to lengths of going to jail to try to steal it, because they have so refined the art of in-game luring and precisely calculated slights at every turn that these games are somehow convincing players to play way above the average that any others would normally do. For even, I mean, there was even a Slice Intelligence article on this, and they calculated that while the average player of free mobile games spend $87, wait, that's still crazy high to me, but that's the average. This company, Machine Zone, with their main titles, they're able to get their players up to an average spend of, ready for this, $550. Let that set in for a second. Then come and sing to me about how it's player choice, and I didn't spend any money on it, so no one else has to either, or whatever cuck of a retort I still see people attempting to make for some reason. I don't know, well actually I do know why. Because the people bought into the addiction of it will go to crazy lengths to defend it. And that's the same with any addiction, exactly what this algorithm is designed to manipulate. Human weakness, human addiction, human gambling, and all of that has a Final Fantasy skin on it and is, for all intents and purposes, a part of the franchise. Even though Square Enix have never advertised it, even though, well, they did once at an event. They had one banner and post up, that's all I've seen. But you never see Square Enix or Tabata or Division 2 or anyone who did 15 talk about it. It's singing how wrong it is from just that alone. You've got to question why that is. Not even Square Enix want to relate too closely to this. They want to keep it separate. And even Machine Zone themselves went and created an alternative name in which to do this all under. No one's acknowledging it, where or why or where it's come from. But that money is still flowing to all of these parties. And that is why I cannot accept any of the arguments that this is MZ and not Square Enix. I've seen so many of that. It's not Square Enix. They're not making money from it. It's MZ. That's bullshit. They're making money from the intellectual property rights. They are the ones who allowed them to use it. Square Enix, in my eyes, are just as culpable for this mess and disgrace of a game as MZ are, if not more. Because Square Enix, they knew who Machine Zone were. They knew what they did, what they were famous for, the way that they did it, and they decided, despite all of that, to still take the quick, easy buck route. That it was worth the price of their game's integrity. So this, it isn't Square doing it, it's MZ. That argument, that can go flush itself along with my regular fibrous 10:30 shit every morning. Ready, Breck? Start every day with a healthy bowl. But now, oh guys, but now, what really blew my mind, you know, like this game landed a year and a half ago. And within 5 hours of me playing it, even with 5,000 quid offered to me for the privilege, I knew what this game was. I knew I couldn't advertise this. It's rank paywall and glaringly obvious tactics to funnel money just to the top. You know, by forcing the majority of other players and players to pay simply to survive. It was clear, so clear to me what this game was, that my brain, it couldn't even comprehend how this game would last more than a month. At that point, it really could. I realized I was naive now, because I really thought this would just be a quick boom and bust entry, you know, where Square and MZ, they would quickly skip out the back door together, giving each other handies on the way out as they revel in how much money they managed to get away with. But no, here we are now, almost 2019, almost 18 months later since it's released, and not only within its first 4 months did FFXV ANE Empire manage to get 20 million downloads. That was America, that's the America store. You know, one of the highest grossing apps. It then went on to June this year to reach 45 million downloads. 32% of which came from US and only 5% from Japan, but Japan have creeped up in those numbers since. But it gets worse because, sure, downloads, 45 million downloads, that's a lot of downloads, but you can damn well be sure that, like me, most of those were downloads that were just then very quickly deleted when people realised what a pile of shit it was. However, out of 45 million, that is still going to be an insane turnover rate. Now, as Wall Street Journal pointed out, it doesn't actually matter. The quality doesn't matter. Hell, the gameplay itself doesn't matter. Clear as day, it doesn't. Because the algorithm that they're using, that has worked, that for years has been finely tuned and tweaked, over years of exploiting player tendencies, it does its work. And we just got news, and it has done its work, because we've got the news that FF15 ANE Empire made $1 million every day in this recent month of November. 30 mil in 1 month. In 1 month, for basically one of the shoddiest, laziest, and unremarkable reskins I've ever seen of a game. Since its launch, it has made over $485 million. Fucking fuck. What more can you say about that? You know, here we are talking about DLCs being cancelled and the Luminous Studio losing what, 33 mil? Like, and we're making it out like that's the biggest event since the Epoxy Reckoning, and yet 485 mil. Right then and there for this game. I wouldn't even be surprised with that if we're talking profit margins larger than actually FF15 itself. I actually wouldn't. And I can't believe it. I can't believe that a game with some of the longest, repetitive, uningenuitive gameplay, with constant pop-ups, forced in-game navigation straight to the store, that threatens its player to either join a band of arseholes or spend more money simply to either survive those other band of arseholes or to protect the money that they've already spent. A game that does intentional server shuffles regularly just to prevent players avoiding spending money. With completely false advertising and nonsensical trailers not even faithful to the lore of the game that it's abusing, renowned and well-documented instances of fake reviews they hired out a barely articulate Chinese company to flood the app stores with, a tactic that they've used often for their other games and they've clearly used here. God awful, again, like I said, looking sprites. Holy shit, this game isn't even aesthetically pleasing, it's fucking ugly. Convincing people to stick around even though it's got nothing but a toxic community because of its zero meaningful achievements or story or gameplay value outside of, again, what just makes it money, from a company that is notorious for being the bottom-feeding parasites of the gaming industry, that thrives just by playing a number game, an algorithm game, aka dropping such a tsunami of marketing, it's almost impossible to avoid seeing this game. I remember YouTube ads were almost religiously FF15 A New Empire for months, and that's reflected in the fact that Machine Zone have on average 3 times the higher marketing budget than any other mobile developing game company out there. 3 times. So this is their strategy. Their strategy is mass market, pull them in, let their algorithm work, and then separate the players left who don't just uninstall, separate those players from the naive gamer who they can quickly get as much as they can before they eventually leave, versus how many whales they can get. They actually have no respect for you whatsoever. In fact, the customer service for this game is virtually next to non-existent. I've seen a lot of people send me copies of their attempts to get in contact with some sort of community support. All of the responses have been copy and pasted. I've literally seen instances of copy and pasted replies to people. These guys don't operate like game devs, they operate more like backroom boiler agents. I mean, even their own Facebook comments on their page are nothing but a hotbed of angry, betrayed gamers hurling out their insults. A game that spits in the eye of a franchise's 30-year legacy and systematically is so desperate to market itself anywhere possible that it even has gone out to convince numerous YouTubers to try to sell their own channel integrity for a few £1,000. That's the game that just made $485 million off the back of us, and is now earning at this point $1 million daily. Look, guys, I get it. I get the notion that if a fool and his money will be easily parted, then let it. Heck, that aside, I'm sure that there's even some people who genuinely enjoy this game. And to some of them, money is such a non-issue that they're not bothered. But even if that is you, even if you have somehow drunk the Kool-Aid and convinced yourself that it's your mind that likes this game and not a carefully crafted formula that's manipulated your mind.
So do you want to sell that technology that you built?
No, why?
But even then, surely even you can see the damage that this game is doing, the precedent that this kind of game is setting for how games are being marketed and their quality, for the honesty and integrity of that marketing and that game.
You're saying programmatic, i.e. robot, technology-driven ad placement and purchasing, that's not only the future, that's now, and we're not going back.
We're not going back, no.
Do you want to sell things beyond games, given your knowledge, given the amount of technology you've built up?
Not at the moment, no.
No. And then what about the technology you're using to run the games? Is that something you can
So
port?
so when we say a real-time technology company, what we've essentially built in-house is we're really a high-frequency trader. So we've got an incredible platform that allows us to process a lot of data extremely fast. So the our marketing looks more like running a NASDAQ than it does traditional marketing.
Even for your fellow player, you know, even though I'm 99% convinced that anyone who does love this game actually doesn't give a shit about anyone else, but for those who might, can you not at least see how this game is deceitfully leveraging players of their money, your fellow players, in such a way that many of them, they don't even realize how uncomfortable they are with what they've spent until after they've spent it, until after the intentionally induced addiction that the game has very intentionally crafted, only once that addiction's worn off. You know, for over a year, I've had people coming to me with their messages because of this. I think it's because my previous 15 A New Empire, calling out its bullshit, did so well, and it's one of the few that actually went in as heatedly as it did. So even if you do like this game, you know, to which I would say, holy shit, are you easy to please? At the very least, do you not have a conscience enough to see, or at least recognize that you are financially endorsing and promoting a game that is fucking over millions of others who are more vulnerable in their resistance than you are? You know, that if allowed to continue growing is going to completely destroy honest and quality gaming as we knew it. You know, it's already on a slippery slope as it is. Does your conscience not even play a remote part in realizing that you are a part of that? You are a funder of that. Your money is going towards a future of gaming that looks like this.
It's probably the largest real-time game in the world, actually.
So you have a giant hit game. This is sort of the holy grail. I think you're doing differently than your peers are.
Well, for the player experience, we really care about player-to-player interaction. So it's, from a content perspective, I don't believe I'm creative enough to come up with something that everybody will love. So I create scenarios for people to play with each other. You can't sell water that efficiently. You need water to live. I have to distribute water. This is all instantaneous, worldwide, instant distribution with potential instant engagement and instant monetization. Instant monetization. Don't believe I'm creative enough. Instant monetization.
Towards something that has utterly abused the trust of a franchise that has stood as a proud cornerstone of gaming today. If not, then I'm going to say you have no principles. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say you have no standard. You have no line that can be crossed. If everything in 15 and New Emperor seems fine to you and ticks your box, and you allow yourself to continue playing it in light of everything I'm highlighting in this video, then you have no principles for gaming. In making this video, it wasn't my intention just to come out here and berate people who are still playing this game, but the truth is, the real harsh truth is, the only way to fix this is for people to stop playing it, and that is the only way we're going to stop Square and other companies from seeing the dollar signs that they have and just repeating it, because they will. You don't make 485 million this easy and with this what is realistically minimal PR backlash, because there's not been much. Again, my video, I'm still getting messages about it today because mine is one of the few out there. Square Enix haven't had the PR backlash not to do this again, especially when offset against how much money they've made. And I can scream and shout and whinge until I am blue in the face, but the companies aren't going to listen to me. Square Enix aren't going to listen to me. And if they're going to stop doing these shady practices, only if people stop playing. So that is the only direction that I can send my beseech at, my implore. I'm imploring people to stop playing these games. It's the same as loot boxes, microtrans, and all these other pay-to-wins. The only way to stop it, and they are being stopped, and we are seeing things like the legislation in Belgium and all the other serious crackdowns and investigations that are happening into these exploitative gaming practices. They're only happening because the word is getting spread around, because YouTubers and other gaming figures and friends are passing around the messages that they're being made fools out of, and to help other players realise when they're being made a fool out of, because it is very hard. These games are very deceptive in that way, and most people, they don't realise when they're being made a fool out of. And in fact, it's so sad to see that some are so blinded that they actually argue in the defence of the company that's making a fool out of them.
Advertising is art and science.
Creative is an art, but you can measure the effectiveness of that art, and it's going to get a lot better, and money will move in ways, in more predictable ways. And there's no other way companies can function. That's just what they're going to do.
Wenda is going to tackle you at the
That's
top
okay.
of the break. One last question.
And yeah, preferably I'd like to not live in a world where we've all just become mindless drones with our debit cards attached. Like, I get it, guys. I grew up with grandparents, so I know what it's like to be told every day that your greatest passion of gaming, just mindless drone hobbies. But even I know the cutoff point where that actually just becomes truth. And this is what these games are. You know, and that's not to go full authoritarian on this, because that's not me, or to sap the joy from someone's quiet, mindless side hobby. Like, I get that. I have a shit ton of those that are probably just as low, if not lower, than mindlessly tapping your RTS, town builder doodamadad. So I'm not making that point to judge, but the truth of it is, the real truth and the real reason I want to do this video is because, frankly, I'd rather just still live in a time, when it gets down to it, where games are still treated as an art form to be appreciated and discussed like they once were, and have some semblance of something special about them. You know, rather than just a calculated dopamine manipulator. I love gaming and I want to see it grow. I want to see all of that money going towards the games and developers that are still showing some semblance of creativity or art. You know, even if it's just the fake one where they secretly do still want our money. Like, I need even just that veneer, but not billions of that money instead going to just flat out self-admitted sleazy salesmen who are almost admittedly just bottom feeders in the pool of gaming. You know, feeding straight off the same source where games that literally have any kind of creative spark. You guys know what I mean? I don't want all of that money going to these companies that are in no way going to better anything in the gaming industry. They're just here to take. I mean, literally listen to this motherfucker again. Let me play a clip of this clown. This is Machine Zone's own CEO, people.
We monetize social networking better than anybody else in the world, by far.
And now you think, all right, we can just replicate this with future games?
We've done it 13 times, yeah. There's nobody building software for the buyers. So if you say, I want to go out and do a sophisticated, large-scale marketing campaign, there's no help for you. So the ad technology that helps the buyers is really poor.
Again, you're going to make me go backstage and cry, and we'll just have to cut the interview out.
No, hold on. But it's the truth, because I am a large-scale buyer. I know what I'm talking about, right?
But here's
I'm going to finish. There is what's going to happen. What's going to happen in this scenario is that buyers are going to become more sophisticated, whether everybody likes it or not. It's inevitable, and everything's going to get repriced.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
You have this product that you said is this awesome product, works great on the phone, you can see the ad, you can buy it, I can start paying you within seconds. Lots of things don't work that way. I can't go buy toilet paper immediately.
Doesn't matter. Everything, media will be quantified, period.
So even though there will be a leap from the product you've made, which monetizes immediately, to everything up the chain, and you'll be able to track it at some point and demand value for it.
Yes. Absolutely.
And it has.
Does he sound like he has a single fuck to give? He doesn't even give the pretense of a shit, this man. Like, he just doesn't. And seriously, I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to go check out the full 40 minutes. It's really something else. You're not a sampler of creative intellect. You're not even human. You're a pair of eyeballs, and his company thrives on finding out just how much your eyeballs are worth.
We can value your eyeballs. We're not going to just talk about how many you have anymore. That's gone. Forget it. No one's going to give you money because you have eyeballs. We want to know if they're real, if it performs when we buy it. We want to know what the effects are. We want to know if we can buy more. So price discovery and value discovery is happening.
And that is the motherfucker that Square Enix has just paired up with to make a cool $485 million, all while we were here squabbling about the implications of a $33 million Luminous Studio loss that frankly is really probably just a baby's first bath hiccup. That's probably going to be the truest truths that you're ever going to hear about this game. That's pretty much the way to look at it, is that Square Enix have paired up with a company and a management that only stand for how to make as much money as possible, and to do that using basically advanced robots, social media algorithms, marketing strategies, targeted data, and the extracting and sharing of that, using gaming but also internet and their websites, and basically their broader look at the world is that everything should turn into a CPM kind of system where literally almost everything in our lives is transactable, either real or not. That's the kind of vision these people have. That is their view of the world. It really is about the worst that it gets when it comes to if you have any kind of, again, principles or belief in the beauty of gaming whatsoever. And Square Enix, a company that I really gravitated towards from a young age, and the Final Fantasy franchise, because those two things to me for a very long time stood for still treating games as an art, and all of the games that I played, and again, what Final Fantasy, I think that this franchise is art, and it's just been collabed with this cancerous group of money hogs who literally want to break down that exact thing. They want to break art and data and internet usage and hours and your eyes and your fucking brain into figures, into dollar signs. Knowing all of this, knowing what this game is doing and the adverse effect it's having on people. And believe me, that is very real and that is happening. If you turn a blind eye to that and you keep going and endorsing and giving your money to this game, well then again I say you have no principles. By any metric or angle you look at this game, it is cheating, and it needs to be stopped if we don't want games in the future doing the exact same thing. Now, if instead of realizing that, you're just gonna go to this comment section and write some arbitrary, boring ass defense of how it's just a regular empire building RTS. Other companies have done it. Some people do like them, so what's the problem? Or any of this other bullshit that I've heard, well then you're the reason why gaming is going to shit. You're the reason why your kids will grow into an age of gaming where the most viral and easily accessible games on the market are ones run by hacky corporate sharks. Ones that focus more on their sleazy marketing tactics than the quality of the game they're putting out. Ones that lift an average player of $550 for fucking nothing. And if you're fine with that, then good luck coming home one day and finding out that your teenager in the future just maxed out your Poxy credit card, because they were just as unsavvy and stupid and blind at recognizing scum when they saw it, which is exactly what FF15 A New Empire ultimately is. Don't expect your teenager or kid to resist in the future what you weren't savvy enough as a fully grown ass adult to resist now. And when they blow a hole in their savings, or when they fail to get a proper start in life because they got so fucked over by being born into an age where excessive consumerism and corporate greed has so thoroughly blinded us all and played into our addictions so badly, then I really hope you look back on your FF15 A New Empire. I hope you look back and think that was all worth it. But me personally, I'd rather stand for some kind of principle, and I'd rather stand to some kind of standard and have some kind of ethic when it comes to what games should be, what they stand for, and the art form that it started as and should be seen as, but is being thoroughly misused. There we go, guys. I'm done. I'm out. I've said my piece. I really need to get off that chest. That is aimed at no one directly, but I think you guys get the feeling for how passionately I feel like this game shouldn't be in existence. I mean, just being in existence was bad enough, but earning those kind of figures, wow. Wow, guys, I don't know how many people are going to be listening to this who have spent money or if you know someone who's playing it. I just really hope we can get the word around that it needs to stop and that people should uninstall it. Like, if we can get as much traction behind trying to reduce their numbers as much as possible, then I do genuinely think it's going to help, because honestly, if it keeps going like this, if they keep making this much money with no kind of comeuppance, no significant kind, rather than just some trivial poxy 80k subscriber channel like I am, then I feel like we're going to have this more and more. And honestly, I don't want to see an FF7 remake game. You know, I don't want to see my Submarine or Escape from Midgar or Fort Condor game. I don't want to see that get taken out of the game and instead put into some shitey mobile title that they're just going to capitalize in the exact same way on. I do not want that to happen. And I think from the majority of the Final Fantasy fan base that I've heard, none of us do. Most of us are disgusted by it. Very much the majority of us are. I can tell, I can see that in the comments. And yeah, like I said, this could be a lot of out of franchise players who are simply addicted to this kind of gaming. They've got on board, and I feel like, yeah, it's not necessarily an indictment on our franchise alone. But there we go, guys, I'm done. I really want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Very much do. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Kumo! Oh, and also I apologise. What else was I going to put in the background to this video? You know, I had to show something. I just want to apologise in advance, or more in the aftermath, that your eyes had to bear witness to FF15 A New Empire this video.